welcome back to another edition of the Change My Mind podcast.
I won't change my mind, because I don't have to, because I'm an American.
Yes, you are, and I'm Wesley Sykes. Through the other side of the ether is the Scrotus. To my erectus, it's Mr. Nicholas J. Esquire, deformed child for hire.
Those guys are some ugly motherfuckers, man.
They are. It looks like a product of inbredness.
Just a little bit. Yeah. But it was the grossest one was, of course, the baby that we saw for like half a second. That was
the Siamese baby.
Yeah, wasn't it? It was one head and two bodies, right? So kind of.
Oh, I couldn't really see, so I thought it was like I saw the four legs sticking out at the end there, but wasn't sure.
Cruel and unusual. That poor, or is it that poor child or those poor children?
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's true. That's true. It depends on if you're acknowledging the head or the feet.
I've never heard of that before. Like, because I know, like, they're conjoined twins. Obviously, that's a thing. But I've always see like maybe two heads in a shared body, or like just fully grown people, and then they're conjoined at a certain point. Like there was the movie Stuck on You, obviously,
of course, Martha's Vineyard. Yeah,
that's right. But that I've seen one where like they're connected at like the top of their head before. I remember seeing that.
Yeah.
But that was just that's brutal. Now we're getting too deep here.
Yeah, it's great. We can go into the what is it? The organic doctor, the organic mechanic, and all of his inner workings a little bit later.
That's right.
But if you haven't guessed, because I'm not sure how many people have actually seen this movie so far. But this week we're reviewing the latest entry into George Miller's Mad Max Saga. You're going to hear this word a couple of times. Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga, starring Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth. Maybe more Chris Hemsworth than Anya Taylor-Joy. I didn't get a runtime of that, but we'll also discuss that. But my intro question for you is related to the movie and the movie-going experience. In recent times, have that you've been to the theater for maybe like non-primetime showings, so like non-Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, opening night type movies. Has a theater employee been scanning your movie tickets?
I feel like I always see somebody there. I feel like I always do. Yes.
Because now I don't want to out my theater here because I may try something the next time that I go.
Mm-hmm.
But pretty much every time that I go to this theater, there is no one scanning my tickets.
We had 3 in my area. Now we have 2. One of them closed, but like two of them, one always has a person scanning. The other one, you have to buy it at the entrance in order to get in.
Okay.
But the third one, you don't. The third one, I've definitely gone in with just like I purchased it on Fandango and I kind of just walked through the door. Like I didn't even think anything of it because there was nobody there. But it's like I probably shouldn't have done that. But nobody stopped me.
That's what's happened to me pretty much every time this year that we've reviewed a movie. Is that I'll purchase the tickets off Fandango or online or whatever, and just have it on my phone ready to go. And there's no one at the door to scan my ticket, and then I can go up to the food counter if I want to. But sometimes I bring in my own food. I got my Jack Link's beef jerky that I love to eat during the movie theater. So, I'll bring that in, and it's like I just walk right to the theater. And no one says anything to me. No one says nothing. Like for this one, I went in, same situation, previously bought the ticket, came in, timed it perfectly, actually, 30 minutes of previews. I sat down in my seat as the opening credits were rolling, so I was very pumped about that. But as I'm going in, I have my what's the word? Contraband of candy in my sweatshirt. But I go up and I just want to get a soda. They don't ask me what movie I'm seeing. I'm assuming at that point you can buy tickets straight from the counter, the candy counter, instead of like the box office, so to speak. No one says anything to me, and I just walk off to my movie.
Wild.
So I think I might, like the next movie, I might just walk in like I own the place and then just like not have a ticket.
I mean, sometimes you just gotta. That's crazy though. That's crazy that they just don't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
It's not just your place. I definitely had that happen at one of my cinemas near me. By the way, speaking of sneaking stuff in, have we talked about that as like an intro question on the show before? I feel like we have.
What about exactly? Just like sneaking in.
What's the most like outrageous thing you've ever snuck in to the theater before?
Oh, I see that. I'm not sure. I mean, nips definitely. I don't think that's too outrageous.
No, you can just stick that in your pocket and you're fine.
But what I did do is I had Jack Link's beef jerky that was in my kangaroo pouch on my sweatshirt, but in the hoodie, in the hood itself, I had peanut M&Ms,
That's
other M&Ms rather,
I respect that move big time. I don't think I've ever done the hoodie move
and
like that.
you're good.
Yeah, that's impressive. That said, the most outrageous thing that I've ever snuck in was definitely a Subway footlong.
Oh, that's good.
Yes,
That's
yeah.
real good.
Just got the old sweatshirt wrap. Like you get, oh, it gets cold in the theater. I want to make
Oh, and
sure that
just
we're
wrap it around, yeah, and
yeah.
you're like bringing it in like a football almost.
Yes,
Yeah.
but the key from my experience, like the key is you got to have two. Like that's a tough thing to do as one person because then it's like, what are you sure? But if you're there with another person and then they're the one carrying the sweatshirts, then it's like, oh, okay, like they both need it, like it's a thing.
Oh, there we go. Okay, I
A
got
little
you.
bit, a little bit easier to buy, but yeah, no, but so, like that's I feel like with my dad one time we did Chipotle too, but that feels kind of egregious. But
Well, yeah, 'cause then you're kind of running into like bringing stinky foods into an airplane situation. Like you might be disrupting everyone's like olfactory sensory
yeah,
senses, and you're like,
yep.
oh my, did someone just bring in like a gefilte fish? Like
I've
gefilte. I
definitely
think I
pushed
said
it.
that right.
Something I don't know what that is, but it sounds real to me. But yeah, I've definitely pushed it the envelope on that one before.
Yeah, I believe it's a cured whitefish, or you can get it in a jar and it's just like sitting in like a vat of oil.
Oh well,
It's
there
not
you
very
go.
tasty.
Doesn't sound like it.
No, no, but okay, so that's good to know. And probably the worst thing that I brought in recently was bold and spicy Chex Mix. That was for Dune 2, and the issue was so that was a little bit more of a packed theater, but the chewing was so loud. So
Oh,
Dune 2, like the sound is great. So when there's action going on, that covers up the any sort of chewing noise. But whenever there's dialogue happening or like these low scenes and they really want you to focus on the dialogue, like it's very quiet in the theater.
mm,
So I'm getting self-conscious because I'm like chewing on the bagel chips of the Chex. And those are like so super crunchy, right? So I'm
yep.
like trying to chew it slowly. I feel like there's like a Family Guy bit of Peter doing that. And it's like trying to chew slowly and just not working. It ends up like accentuating all the chews.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, even at home, like Lauren says, like for herself, like she doesn't eat chips or things like that when we're watching a movie or a show that like she wants to be really locked in or that requires her to be locked in on because it's like mess with her. And
Yep.
I've never, I mean, I've noticed that I guess before for myself, but I like now I worry like, oh, I don't want to chew too loudly. So like I very much hear that.
Yeah, Jules tells me all the time. She says she hates the way I eat yogurt.
Oh,
I'll be sitting in bed having my nightly yogurt before bed, and it's she's like, that just sounds so gross. And it's like, all right, but then I eat anything crunchy, and she's like, it's so loud. So I don't know. You can't win,
your
But you know what
nightly
always
yogurt.
is a winner? It's your comic book minute. It's coming up right now.
Oh.
Ah, a superb choice.
Yeah, particularly loaded week in terms of comic books. We got X-Men 35, which is Legacy issue 700 for Uncanny X-Men, and it's also
Hmm.
wrapping up the Krakoa era, which has been coming to an end. We're going to be rising from the ashes fairly soon. I think that's going to
Ooh,
be in July.
like a phoenix.
Yes, exactly. So very excited
Hmm.
about that. This did put a nice little punctuation mark on the Krakoa era. And for Nightcrawler fans, there is a particular moment for him in this issue that is like I didn't know a Nightcrawler had that kind of game. And we'll leave it at that. From Image this week, we got the second issue of Bear Pirate Viking Queen. That is all one title.
Love
The
it.
Eternals, issue 4. Falling in Love on the Path to Hell, issue 1. From Boom, we got Profane, issue 1, which is nothing to do with profanity, but it is a very meta detective title. Um,
Okay.
DC, we got Poison Ivy issue 23. And then probably the biggest thing outside of X-Men 35 is IDW. We got TMNT Alpha. So this is the prelude to the new run, the new start to TMNT, which is going to be written by Jason Aaron. So this is a pretty massive issue. I don't know in terms of length how big it is, but something that for those who like me Hadn't read the last TMNT run, which I think ended up going 150 issues.
Wow.
This is a great chance to kind of hop in and get on board. So definitely want to pick up this if you're a TMNT fan and haven't been reading their comics for a little while. As for TLDR this week, we had Ethan Sachs on the show. Some of you may know him from Star Wars Bounty Hunters. He's currently writing Jango Fett as well for Marvel. We talked to him primarily about A Haunted Girl, which is a story that he co-wrote with his daughter, who I believe is in college right now, but is a horror story, deals with mental health issues as well, kind of brings the two together. So that was a really fun story. You can go check that out on TLDR, and we'll be doing What's New this week. So just focus on the new comic book releases.
I love it. A whole lot there to focus on, too. You weren't kidding. A jam-packed comic book minute. That's some good stuff there.
Long minute.
Yeah. We're an untimed minute, if you will.
Thank you.
But now we're going to get to our main topic, which is Furiosa, Mad Max Saga exit survey. And Nick, what is the synopsis of this movie?
The origin story of renegade warrior Furiosa before her encounter and team up with Mad Max.
Simple, to the point.
Perfect.
I would say, not exactly. It's more of a straight line than the actual movie plots out to be. But that's pretty good.
That is very true. Very true.
This movie was written and directed by George Miller, who I found out was a practicing medical doctor before transitioning to a director, and he's like a completely self-taught director.
Really?
Yeah, pretty interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, cool stuff. But nevertheless, this movie is starring Anya Taylor-Joy as Furiosa, Chris Hemsworth and a prosthetic nose playing Dementis, Tom Burke as Praetorian Jack, Alila Brown as young Furiosa, George Shetzoff as History Man. I like that label there. It's all he gets is the History Man. Lacey Hume as Immortum Joe. I don't think I copied that name right. That doesn't sound right to me,
I think it's Immortal Joe. Yeah.
Yeah. But Lacey doesn't sound like a name for. It's like a boy named Sue. But anyway, John Howard.
No, it's you were right. It's Immortan Joe.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
John Howard as the people eater. Angus Sampson as the organic mechanic. Great name. Charlie Fraser as Mary Jabasa, Furiosi's mother. Elsa Pataki as Volvolini General. Some of these names I'm really having a hard time with. Nathan Jones as Rictus Erectus. Josh Hellman as Scrotus. David Field as Toe Jam. Rahel Rahman as Vulture. David Collins as Smeg. Goran D. Clute as the Octoboss. And CJ Bloomfield as Big Jilly. And Matus as Fang. God.
All right, why don't you take a little break, because that was a tough one. There's some crazy names in this. And honestly, as I'm watching this, like some of the names, like Praetorian Jack, that doesn't even mean shit to me. Like I knew they said something before his name, but I didn't know what it was.
I think it's a title. I think it's like the person who drives the big rig is the Praetorian, right? I think
it's a title. That must be what it is. But yes, he has title. I mean, Furiosa has a title too. When she like comes up out of the like the catacombs or whatever the hell that was, like with that witch doctor lady, her title, and it's like, I don't know what you said there. I know everything else you said, but that word. So I don't know. And by the way, for those who didn't know, I thought Mad Max was based on a book originally. No, something originally written by George Miller. So I was actually kind of stunned by that to see, because we talked so many times about like obviously comic book movies, but so many movies are originally based on books. So
especially these like post-apocalyptic type scenarios, right? Yeah, I would have guessed that too. But this is good original IP.
Yes, it is. And then for the box office, so you mentioned, Wes, you don't know how many people are seeing it. Right now, this is hauled in 114.3 million worldwide, 49.6 million domestic, and 26.3 of that million came from the opening weekend. So part of one of the worst Memorial Day, the worst Memorial Day weekend since 1995. So that's pretty rough. But it has bounced back in its second week, because obviously that's a pretty significant boost from the 26.3, at least from the domestic side, up to 114.3 million worldwide. On IMDb, this is a 7.9 out of 10. on Rotten Tomatoes. It is a 90-90 split, so not even a split. They're
Yeah, it's
mirroring
true.
one another. 4.1 out of 5 on Google reviews, with 90% of Google users liking this movie.
Yeah, a lot of agreement over here. I think we're going to be in some more agreement, and that is pretty good to see, right? So if the box office opening weekend domestic was 26.3 million, and they're at 49 right now, so that's like almost like a flat 2 week opening there. That's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it hopefully, I think their budget was 168 million, so they still got quite a bit of ways to go because obviously
The
that's not accounting for marketing, as far as we know. But
Yeah.
this movie deserves it. Like this is like, so let's get into the score and tweet length review. We
Yeah.
are in we're in the same floor with
Yep.
this one, same building maybe. 88 out of 100 for me. Plain and simple, if you enjoy Mad Max Fury Road, you will enjoy this. You don't really need to know much more beyond Mad Max Fury Road to enjoy this. Even then, I don't know that you necessarily need to know Mad Max Fury Road. Amazing action sequences and a strong cadre of villains. This took some aggressive swings from a storytelling standpoint, and one that left me a little bit conflicted, and probably where I took off the majority of my points.
I love the use of cadre in there. That's
Thank you.
great stuff.
I appreciate it. I was proud of myself for thinking of that.
Yeah, so Nick gave it an 88. I give it an 87 out of 100. A pedal to the metal, adrenaline pumping action movie that lives up to Fury Road. But like you said, I don't think you really need to see Fury Road to
I think
get
it's
it. I
fair.
think you take more away from it, though. But Furiosa is a great movie theater experiences that features great action sequences that are shot extremely well and complemented with great audio support. So I think you come for the action adventure of this whole movie, and you stick around for Chris Hemsworth's performance, which is my biggest takeaway from this.
It was an amazing performance. That's for damn sure. Before we get into our actual questions that we have mapped out for each other, do you think this movie has rewatchability?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's in a similar vein to Fury Road, and I think we've both previously said that like we're not obsessed with Fury Road like a lot of people are. A lot of people might say this is like one of the best movies of the 20th century.
Right.
And I don't think so. I think it was a fun ride. I'll go back and watch it. I have gone back and watched it. Probably should have rewatched it ahead of this though. That's my one. If I could do over, that would be it. But however, I think so. It's long. But I think you like if this were say like the 1990s and you were getting movies on TV, TNT run, HBO run, like you could probably pop in at certain points and be like, oh, I'm gonna watch the first chase bike scene for the first 20 minutes or something like that. Or you pop in and it's like, oh, they've just met, like all the leaders of the three cities have just met and like shit's about to go down at the Bullet Farm.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna stick around there. So like different parts that might get me to sit down more.
Yeah, I'm in. By the way, for those keeping score at home, that's another unintentional pun for Wes with the fun ride. Talking about Fury Road.
Oh yeah, that was exactly.
I know that. I was letting you go because you were rolling, but I like he did it again.
Yeah.
But I am on a similar page to you. I do think if you catch the opening sequence, you're absolutely going to stop and watch that. Like if we're back in the aughts, I guess. But then after that, for me, it's probably from a rewatchability. Like if you're just picking it up randomly, like while channel streaming, I need to have, other than that opening scene, I need to have Anya Taylor-Joy's part in this movie have begun, and that's something that we can get into probably right away. Was this movie too long, too short, or just right for you, Wes?
Yeah, it felt both a little long and too short at the same time, maybe for different reasons. So it was definitely long. I think it was like 2.5 hours or so. And this is probably due to the star just not showing Anya Taylor-Joy not showing up for like the first hour. And it's short because it felt like we missed parts of the story. Like I would have loved to have known Dementis's motivations a little bit earlier. We get that great monologue between him and Anya Taylor-Joy at the end before he meets his demise, where you get a little bit of understanding. It's like, hey, you're looking into a mirror. This is what you become in the future. You become me by killing me, essentially. And we've all been through the same thing. I would have liked to seen that a little bit more because from my understanding, I listened, I like the Ringer podcast network. So they do on the way home. I listen to the Big Picture, and they do a breakdown of Furiosa. So I was listening to that, and apparently I haven't seen the original Mad Maxes, but all of them kind of come from a place where like Mel Gibson or whoever the protagonist is lost something, and then it becomes fully entrenched into this like demonic world, right? So it's like he has nothing to live for now, so now he's fully going in, and you see that loss where like life was still going on. You don't really see that with Dementus. You get told that, and I think that would have added a nice little layer to his character. But again, that's kind of a nitpick. And again, a little bit of Furiosa's family I would have liked more of that backstory and their whole oasis that they had. And she kind of has a little bit of a lack of character growth because she's like badass from a young age, kind of like a fear seeker, a little bit of a leader. And then as she gets older, she gets more badass, which is great, but it's not like a huge development.
It's definitely not a huge development, but for me, I felt like it's all about survival for her. So it all kind of played well for me, but I do understand your other points that you're making. And on the note of like her family, I can't help but wonder if I mean, obviously box office wise, this hasn't done all that well, but if it ends up like, building up and people rally behind this and it ends up, doing well financially, maybe next time around maybe they'll be like, we could try running it back another time and maybe this could work. I wouldn't be stunned if they do it something about like how the Green Place came to be, because obviously the mom is badass, and I can't imagine she's the only badass character there, because her
friend or whatever,
friend, partner, whatever she was, but Chris Hemsworth's wife, she was also a badass because she, I think, popped off the first 2 snipes, so or something to that effect. So yeah, I wouldn't be stunned if we got to see that. But anyways, on the note of our question, I agree with you. Like this is kind of where like the aggressive swing that I was talking about before from a storytelling standpoint. Like on the one hand, it took too long to see Anya Taylor-Joy. Like you said, it's like an hour into the movie. I actually looked at my watch and I was like, holy fuck, it's been an hour. Like it was good. Like, don't get me wrong, it was a good hour, but I'm like,
I agree. I thought it worked well, but it leaves the whole audience wondering, like, where is she?
I was like, why is it taking so long to bring Anya Taylor-Joy in this? Yes, I legitimately thought that. But I also appreciate it from like, we're making it more about the character and her story and like establishing where the world is at this point and who the people that she has to deal with, all the obstacles. So like, I do appreciate it from that standpoint as well. I just think that when you go and have it be someone like Anya Taylor-Joy, who's like the lead character, it's tougher to do that with. If you had just done it with, a no name that people, or maybe a middling, actress that people just don't know as well, then maybe it doesn't stand out quite as much. Maybe, but I do appreciate. There is a part of me that appreciates it because again, it was an hour in, and I had to ask myself that question, and then she popped up. So,
and then it's like, well, how long is this movie going to be to tell this full story? Because they spent so much time with like what is kind of like a prologue, the first 3 chapters of how the movie is like kind of set up, right? It's like it's all with young Furiosa and her kind of rise to it, which is really interesting and very enjoyable. But again, I think from a viewing perspective, you're like, I kind of paid to see Anya Taylor-Joy here. Like, where is she? She does a great job. So does young Furiosa. She was really good in this too.
She does. It's not a knock on her at all. I'm thinking if they cut off 15 minutes, then we probably wouldn't have asked that question. And so that's 45 minutes where she's not, where she's. But again, there was still cool stuff there. And also, Wes, like as much as there's a level of like from a rewatchability standpoint that may hurt it for that chunk of the movie. At the same time, it's also created this desire for me. Like I already wanted to see Anya Taylor-Joy go off in this, but then as we're going along, I'm like, can we fucking get like grown up, Furiosa? Can we get Anya Taylor-Joy so she can go nuts? So like, and by the time I'm feeling that, we get her pretty much. So
yeah,
it's like it's again like I think it could there like from an aging standpoint, we'll talk about that more later too. But it's just like there's pros and cons to it.
No, absolutely. I would have liked a little bit more of Jack's story, but maybe that works out just fine with just kind of leaving it a mystery and up to it, because you kind of wonder like where's his heart? Why in a whole world filled with heartless people, like why is he still kind of good?
Yeah, they really kept that, like, it was very quick. I thought he was gonna die a lot faster than he did. Like, there was that one because,
Yeah.
like, Lauren's sitting next to me, and by the way, for those keeping score home, she gave it an 85 out of 100. But
Okay.
she liked Jack right away. She's like, "I think is he gonna go already?" And I thought he was toast, like, way faster than he was. I mean,
Hmm.
he went down pretty quick, but it was but yeah, anyways, Jack was an interesting character. But yeah, they could have done more with him. That might have been interesting for sure.
Which hub would you want to be a part of? The Citadel, Gastown, or the Bullet Farm? We can't choose the Oasis, the green place. You know,
No.
that's
Yeah, this is a
they
tough
still have
one.
like solar energy and everything like that, and wind farms and stuff.
Yeah, no way. That's the obvious answer. Between these three, it's really tough. I feel like Gastown is the only wrong answer because of what ends up happening to them.
Hmm.
And just
Hmm.
the way their leader kind of appeared and, like, he carried himself. I don't know, like the original leader before Dementis. It
Yeah, I
seemed
think
like,
it's what's his name? And Morden Joe's brother. I think that's what
oh,
it was.
that's right. You're right. So he's obviously not the best of guys.
Hmm.
So I'm not in on anything or related to him. So Gastown is instantly out for me. From there, two shit options, but I kind of lead towards Bullet Farm. It just felt like they had a little bit less of a toxic situation. I know they had that
Hmm.
pit that people were down in after Dementis took over, but it still didn't feel like it was quite as bad, as opposed to the other places, I guess is what it comes down to.
So my thought is I would go with the Citadel because they seem to be that seemed to be like the capital city. Right, so
Yeah.
all the resources are there, and then if I'm one of the soldiers, I guess, for lack of a better term, with the white face paint and everything that they spray, they spread the silver on their teeth. You are fully in a cult. You're bought in. So
Mm.
like that would be me. If I'm in that situation, that's me. I'm not like straying anywhere else. You probably think you got a pretty good gig. You don't really have an idea of like what you're missing out on. You're 100% in on the Citadel and like fighting for a Morden Joe.
You would be a war boy?
I think so. I think that would probably be the way to go. Like simple minded. They seem to be like loving what they're doing. They're not
Yeah.
like revolting. That guy was very
Nope.
happy to kill himself
Yep, they are
when asked.
definitely zealots. Yes, 100%. The only thing that I'll add to why yours might be the right choice, because I'm like, Bullet Farm seems kind of nicer, but Citadel also has food, so it's like,
But
what do
we
you
do
need
see
most
in
at the end of
Fury
it all?
Road that becomes like a little bit stretched out. They have the
True.
time when they let the water out, and it's like everyone's going crazy, and they just end up
Yep.
getting soaked, but no one really gets the water. You just get
Yeah.
like blasted with a fire hydrant.
Yeah. This is true. This is true.
So
So
resources run short everywhere. But
yes, that's it.
you got good access to heads of lettuce and potatoes.
Of course. Yeah.
Mother's milk. It's you get it right from the teat there.
Oh boy. Yeah. It's
You
no.
imagine like after traveling to Gastown or the Bullet Farm, like how warm that milk must be.
Oh God.
They
By the
can't
way,
have a hydration system.
I had never. So when it comes to just Mad Max in general, I know very little. And I think
Same.
that is gonna change for me after seeing this movie, and I
Yeah.
also like Fury Road. But I didn't know it was like set in Australia. And once they like, I'm glad they did that, because it's just like,
Hmm.
oh, knowing the layout from Fury Road, now it all makes more sense to me.
Yeah, and Mel Gibson was Australian, so I think that was
Oh,
early Mel Gibson before he dropped
yeah.
the accent. So I think you can kind of lean into it more, mate.
Oh,
It's,
I didn't
that's
even
my
realize that.
it's my Australian accent for you.
Wow.
But yeah. So maybe the Citadel. I wouldn't have a problem with the Bullet Farm, but Gastown is definitely last on the
Mhm.
power rankings there.
And that we are definitely in lockstep.
Yeah, and I was wondering too, and I'm happy they explained this, but I was like, how is Dementis's biker gang like getting all of this gasoline? But they have some sort of barter agreement that everything got shipped out to them. But my question is like, where's the biker gang's home base? Because they're kind of nomadic. Like I definitely don't want to do that.
No, nope. I am all set with. I mean, being a part of Dementis' group just in general is a bad deal. Like, no
Yeah.
way. I know, if you're in charge, maybe it's good for a little bit because you can go in and bully. But that guy, just everything, he kills everything that's around him. And we
Hmm.
saw like part of one of his plans, like the whole plan with Gastown. Like he picked guys out from Octobos's group
Mhm.
And then he ended up killing him. He tried to put on a show. It's like, oh, this isn't working. We gotta have to make it real.
He's a pretty good ruthless leader, though. You know,
Oh, he
he's
is.
kind of effective. He's not good at running anything, but he's good at overthrowing things. He's a
Yes,
good
he's
warrior leader.
yep, he's good at overthrowing things. But he at the same time, like no one is safe around him. Except the only person that's safe when he's around is him. That's it.
Yeah, I would say the history man carved out a pretty nice niche for him, though.
Mm, very true. Very
Not
true.
too bad. Um, Before we get to the most rewatchable scene, exit survey question on the fly: what type of rig would you drive? We saw buggies, we saw bikes, we saw monster trucks, we saw the big rig, of course. We saw the V8, the V12. We saw
Uh,
some like cars that were on top of each other. I don't know if you noticed that. There were like two cars and then on four wheels, but like two car bodies.
don't forget Dementis' chariot, his 3-bike chariot. That was
No,
pretty
of
badass.
course. Yeah. How
Yeah.
awesome is that? Yeah.
That was pretty freaking awesome. I wasn't entirely sure on how that worked, but I was totally here for it and I don't care. But for me, if I'd probably go monster truck in that era. I just don't feel like, you know, motorcycle
We
stuff.
were just talking about motorcycles. Yeah, just
Yeah.
said. I couldn't get me to go on one, especially the older I get there. It would probably be like a dune buggy, like a souped up dune buggy or something, because you're in the
Mm,
desert, so you can get up over the sand dunes and everything. But maybe like a supercharged one with a
yep.
nice roll cage on it.
Yeah. I wish I could answer motorcycle though, because they're totally badass looking. There's no
Oh,
question
of
about it. But
course.
especially some of these. But yeah, maybe dune buggy makes more sense. But either way, I'd prefer to have 4 wheels.
I don't know how Dementis operated that chariot. I don't know how that actually kind of worked because like the bikes are so heavy. How would they again last on the sand? Like that's a dirt bike area.
It's one of those things where it's like it's so cool and so outrageous that like I thought of it in the movie, but then I was like, I don't really give a fuck. Like I'm
Yeah,
curious, but I like it's fine. It looks cool. Just it
yeah. No, I
works for this
wasn't
era.
questioning it, but
It
I was
fits.
wondering, kind of wondering at the same time.
Yeah, 100%. As for most rewatchable scene, you jotted down a lot of good options, so I wanted you to go first on this one.
Yeah, this kind of just runs the gamut here. You know, I think two honorable mentions before we get to the big ones would be Dementis's biker gang adding new members there. So we get that little bit of a show with a mid-aged, mid-teen, maybe pre-teen Furiosa, and there's recruiting new members into the biker gang, and they have someone lined
Oh,
up,
jeez.
chained up by their head and their arms and their legs to 5 different bikes. We only got 5 bikes there, so they do kind of like a Joker in the Dark Knight poker room or billiards
Yeah.
room, and they throw these weapons out there, and they're like, "There's 20 of you. There's 5 spots. Survival of the fittest. Let's go." And it's pretty freaking brutal. You see
Yep.
that girl lose like half of her lip and face getting knocked out, and then just like coldly takes the gun, shoots the guy off the bike, and does it. And then they all end up killing that guy who's all chained up. Pretty awesome.
Yeah,
Small
pretty
scene though. That's a
Ooh.
small scene.
Yep, honorable mention for sure, but that was brutal. Yeah, when you see him pop up, and then it's like, and then the bikes just drive away very quickly.
Yeah, exactly. And then Dementis's and Furiosa's final encounter, where we get that big back and forth and kind of revelation that Furiosa is really just a younger Dementis, and everyone has lost something. I don't know why she kept yelling like "Give me back my family," like over and over again. I don't know what that was really supposed to do. I was a little confused by that.
I get it that like she's like, you took this from me, I want it back, and it's like, well, we know you can't, but then again, this she's probably emotionally underdeveloped because she's not raised by parents after the age
Yeah,
of
yeah,
11.
yeah.
But for me, it was kind of similar to the bike thing, where it's like, I get it, like the emotions there. She's not going to be like as developed as she was when Charlize Theron played the character, but I see it's still a fair point.
Yeah, absolutely. But as for the main contestants for the award here, the trap at the Bullet Farm, that's my top contender. That was so good. You think Furiosa and Praetorian Jack are going to get away from it, and then she can leave. She comes back, and she's like, "No, the gate's stuck." So she goes back to save him. She's doing her sniper shit. It's just all very cool stuff. You got the what is it? Is it the backhoe tractor? What am I thinking with the arm?
Oh, why do I want to say crane? But that's not what it is.
It's not that we're not construction guys, but you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
So using that like on either side, very cool stuff. It was very cool usage of a construction site.
Yes, I'm with you. Like I have two options, and I'll mention the second one right now. I do think all the ones you have listed are great, but the Bullet Farm one, man, was so fucking sick, and this is where like with excuse me, with George Miller, like the shots that he gets and the way he's able to move around, and like I love the cinematography in this movie. And again, like where I said off the rip that if you like Fury Road, you're gonna like this. That's
Mhm.
part of why, just because the style is just perfectly captured, and obviously George Miller like has been there since day one, so you know he's going to get that done, or you would think he's going to get that executed at least. So Bullet Farm, very cool, and then also the opening bit with
Yeah.
Mary Jabas, Furiosa's
Mhm.
mother, dude. Like, I'm blank. It's Chris Hemsworth's wife was the other one who was part of that scene. But man, the way they
Was it?
chased them
Oh,
down.
his real wife.
Sorry, Chris Hemsworth's real wife. Yes,
Okay,
not
you said
Dementis'
that
wife.
earlier. I was like, oh wait, was that like Dementis? Okay, gotcha,
Yes.
gotcha.
No, it is Chris Hemsworth's wife. So, but yeah, like that whole scene was just like, this is how you set a fucking tone off of the rip. That was outstanding, man. That was just like nonstop. And when she got there, it's like, oh, like when the Furiosa was like brought in, like, how is this going to end? How is this going to wrap? And it was great. Oh, I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, and it goes on for so long, right? I mean, she tracks him all the way down to the biker, I guess like camp that they have set up there. It's so cool. It's like even the biker guys dragging a tire behind them on their bike to get rid of the tracks, like little stuff like that. I thought were really cool.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where that is just like you said, it went on for a bit. I mean, that was probably a good 20 minutes at
Yeah.
least, and that's part of why when we talk about having the young Furiosa stuff, it you didn't notice it till so late in the process. Like when are we like, or you didn't ask that question till so late in the process. Like where is Anya Taylor-Joy in this? Like when are we going to start
Hmm.
seeing her? It took a while because that first sequence was just it was perfect. It was awesome. And this is like Marie Jabas, like or Mary Jabas. I know she's mentioned in Fury Road by Furiosa, but
Hmm.
I forgotten that her name or anything like that. I'm like, this is just her mom. Okay, cool. Like you didn't need to know her name. It was so well done, so perfectly paced, like with little like pauses in the action and everything. So it's sometimes like the sped up shots that
Hmm.
they do, like they did it really well throughout that whole sequence. So I kind of lean, I don't know, as the more I talk about it, I kind of lean towards that over Bullet Farm, but Bullet Farm is so good too.
Yeah, no, and I get it too because it's like, all right, you get the added anxiety and the immediacy of the issue of losing your child to a group of marauders on the bike, and that's a huge issue. But it's also like, and this is why Furiosa is cutting the bike lines before they even leave when they're hacking up the horse. They don't want anyone to know about the green place because it's going to
Yep.
get overrun. So
Yep.
it's like that extra thing of like, all right, it's just this is everyone's survival here essentially.
Yep.
On top of trying to get back my child, so it adds that extra layer of like, again, we really need to get this done. And then we mentioned how prolonged that whole scene is. I mean, it's just a back and forth kind of cat and mouse game where they get so close and you think it's going to happen and then it doesn't happen and then everything kind of plays out that way. But you think she's going to get him, and then they end up arriving there and she's like, oh fuck. And
Yeah.
then of course her untimely death at the end is very,
Brutal.
very brutal.
Brutal. But also like to that end where you're talking about how like no one else, like you can't let anybody who's seen like no one can find out about the green place that's not from there. I love that little mention that we get.
Hmm.
And it's also like that's where I'm thinking it was an important part of Fury Road, and obviously it's gone by the end of that movie. Spoiler alert for everybody. But it's not there anymore. And then we have this badass character. Like I want to know how Mary became such a badass character, and again, Chris Hemsworth's wife's character, how she
Hmm.
became so badass. I would like, and how the Green Place came to be. Maybe it's in the other Mad Max movies, and I just don't know. But I really loved. I really thought it was a cool element that could be expounded upon too.
Yeah, I agree. The other nomination here that we have is the War Rig introduction. So they finished the War Rig, and that's like classic Mad Max stuff, right? So it's like very cool, and I would say the guerrilla warfare tactics of I guess it's Dementis, right? That's Dementis,
Octobosses guys.
the Octobosses guys, yeah. But they're deploying the helicopters, or not helicopters, parachutes and people in the air to kind of get the high ground on people to be able to throw their bombs or whatever they have. Very, very cool stuff. And then like all the cool things that the War Rig can do. I forget what they call it, but on the back end with all of the spiked balls that start swinging. But whenever that is, it's like, that's also very cool stuff.
Yeah, I feel like it was like it began with the B because
Yeah, it's like boomerang, batarang, something like that.
I thought it was something weird like boom hickey or something like that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's what it was.
Something like that. But anyways, yeah, no, it was really cool.
Furiosa as like the pit monkey who's doing all the work underneath, like kind of like fixing all the engines. That was very well done.
Yeah, that having her like right next to the tire like that, fixing shit up, and I'm like, God, these people are friggin' nuts.
Yeah,
it's very cool. Yeah,
and again, not a car guy, but you got those. I don't know what is it, the axles that are rotating underneath that are constantly spinning. Like that's like a lot of moving parts there. No pun intended.
We have quite a few movies where, especially when we're talking about Marvel, where we have like two scenes that it's like, oh, one is the clear winner, but number two is really well done, and it could be in that same category. But we don't have many times where it's like the first two we're talking about with the Bullet Farm and the Marie Jabas, like those, or Mary Jabas. I keep saying her name wrong, but like those two are number ones, like 1A, 1B. I think.
Yeah,
War Rig is like, I think it's in plenty other movies that would be a number one, like most rewatchable scene.
Absolutely, and I think the War Rig is what moviegoers expect to see here, right? That's like kind of like, especially if you have seen Fury Road, where so much of the movie is just that, like kind of like it's like on a moving screen or moving road the whole time. But the War Rig stuff is kind of like the tent pole of the movie, But then you're pleasantly surprised by the ambush at the Bullet Farm or the Furiosa mother's bike chase. And it's like, these are really well done too.
Yeah, that's how strong the action is throughout this movie. Because the two that you mentioned for honorable mention, I think the biker gang one, adding the new members, is probably the bottom of the list of this group. But that's still a good one. And then the Furiosa's final encounter with Dementis, like that would probably be like that's when talking about the scale I was mentioning before, like that's a good one. Like that would probably be number two for plenty of other movies. So
and I think it's necessary for this movie to kind of make that connection to them, and then you kind of get that little bit of a reveal of who Dementis is by the end of it there.
Yeah, the way I don't the way that actually no, I don't want to step on what will age the best, because now we're getting close to getting into that. So what will age the best from this movie, Wes?
I mean, Dementis, Hemsworth's take on the character, the nose, the accent, the bravado and like flair that he has, works so great. It's like simple scenes, like this isn't necessarily up for most rewatchable scene, but when they fire off the red flare gun, and it's like it goes over everywhere, right? Furiosa gets the red in her hair. So does Dementis, and he becomes like the Red King almost, and his little like parachute cape becomes red. Like that's a really interesting like physical change in the in like the attitude and the mindset of Dementis. He gets a little bit crazier after that point, where he's not as like pristine and white, So it's kind of like an interesting metaphor.
Yeah.
But again, I thought the character was so great. The only character who's like kind of what's the word? You used cadre of villains before, but loquacious. Like he's like eloquent and like thoughtful and has all these like great long nonsensical tirades, and no one else really can put a sentence together.
Is that the guy with the nose? Is that how you're talking about? No, you said loquacious.
Yeah, loquacious. It's like flamboyant almost, or
Oh,
like
you're talking about
outspoken. Like
now
it's
you're
as
using
an adjective. Yeah.
see this. I have to come in prepared with big words. When you start actually using them, then I'm like exposed. So this doesn't work. So no, okay, I get what you mean. Yeah, sorry, my apologies. Uh,
like well spoken. You
yes,
know.
yeah, no. That one was on me, 100%. I'm also as you're going through this trying to see so we can let the people know where they can watch the other Mad Max movies. So I will get that by the end of this
Yeah, yeah,
episode
for sure.
because I want to know too. But anyways, moving on.
Yeah. So I thought Hemsworth as a villain was like again getting my ass in the seat. I don't know if you've ever seen what is it? Is it like Bad Night at the El Royale?
I've heard of it, not
Bad
seen it.
Times at the El Royale, something like that. It's like a neo noir like thriller where Hemsworth
That
plays a eccentric cult leader.
at the Bad Times at the El Royale. Yep, that's it.
It's kind of a similar. This is like Dementis is like a more characterized. Is that the right term?
Uh,
Caricature of his role in
okay.
Bad Times at the El Royale.
So
Um,
that one has a 7.1 out of 10 on IMDb. And here's another. So this movie that we're talking about right now, Furiosa, is a 90 is a 90-90 split on Rotten Tomatoes. This one, Bad Times at the El Royale, also has an even split, 75-75. That's weird.
Really? It's not a
Yeah,
bad movie. It's a good watch if you wanna, watch it on the weekend or something like that.
interesting.
It's pretty good, but again, like, he does such a good job of playing this, and, everyone's baked into him seeing him as Thor. So
I
that's, like, kinda synonymous at this point, but he
I
does really good.
I feel like I recall seeing the previews for the El Royale, and I never got around to watching it. So maybe I need
Mhm.
to go and do that based off what you're saying. But I agree, like Hemsworth as a villain, like the character Dementis was he did such a good job with it, and I do think like altering his appearance, so like I'm not watching this and thinking the whole time like it's Thor was so important for this especially because like while he's like he is well spoken in all this different ways, like he has a level of like he has like there's like the way he carries himself is similar to Thor. So it's just like I didn't think
Yeah.
about that as much.
And he has the long hair, he has the
Yeah.
beard, so that's like kind of, setting himself up to be reminding people of Thor.
Yes. By the way, when I said that before, when you said loquacious, and I got caught sleeping and thought you were talking about a person, I was talking about that the dude who has like, is it a cage around his
Yeah,
nose?
a cage around his nose. Yeah, yeah. So he's Immortan Joe's like right hand man or something.
Something like that. He looks
Yeah.
like there's an orc from the Return of the King for Lord of the Rings listeners. That in the extended scene, an extended cut, that he looks exactly like, except that orc actually, oddly enough, I don't think has a nose.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, moving on.
Yeah, so I thought just the overall adrenaline pumping action throughout this. I thought particularly the first like 90 minutes or so was like nonstop action. But for the most part throughout, it's like again, adrenaline pumping, pedal to the metal. Let's go. And just
Yeah,
even though it's long, that does a good job of kind of keeping you invested throughout the movie.
they did a really good job with that, and like part of what's so good with it is like they have those some like in between moments or when they transition into the action where they have the camera like whatever they do with the editing where certain things get sped up.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it bugs me, but there are quite a few times where it's like this is really well done. It's really smart. I know it's a Mad Max thing, a George Miller thing. It
It's
works
actually his
really well.
wife is his editor. Has been his editor like throughout all the Mad Max movies.
Well, she knows what she's doing. That's for
Yeah,
damn
yeah, yeah.
sure. So I'm with you on Hemsworth as a villain. I'm with you on the action in general. Obviously, we talked about that a ton with the most rewatchable scenes. For me personally, at least, the intrigue in this world, because again, like I thought it was this movie. There was Mad Max Fury Road, and then there was one. I thought it was just one Mad Max movie, and I
Yeah,
forgot.
there's Road Warriors and like a couple other ones, right?
There's the original one, Road Warrior, and then Thunderdome. And
Thunderdome,
and
that's
I
right.
did find this in the course of things. So my effort was not all for naught. All on HBO Max, so you
Mm,
can watch all
I would have
four
guessed that, yeah.
Mad Max movies, other than Furiosa at this stage, but that'll probably be on HBO or Max, excuse me, when this is done. But I'm very much like I do want to go back and rewatch Fury Road, and I absolutely want to go and watch the Mel Gibson versions of this because I want to know more about this world. I thought the way that like what ends up happening to Dementis, how he doesn't get killed and he's just living out this life as like a withered old man and
Mhm.
like stuck under this tree as part of the tree. I think it's perfect. Like it's a level of fucked up that we don't see often from like hero characters. Like they'll just be like, oh, and then just pull the trigger or cut the
Yep.
character with a knife. It's like they just like I can't get the satisfaction, but I just have to be done with this. Like no, I like Furiosa like made sure it was long and painful and uncomfortable. So very well done. I like that
Yeah,
choice a lot.
so she takes the peach seed, which I don't know how it lasts that long for however many years, right?
Yep.
That's impressive in its own right. That may be an unanswerable question. How it doesn't like
That's
rot or
that
mold or
is
something, you know?
15 years, Wes, I think is what it was.
Yeah, yeah. So the assumption is that she plants the seed and then puts him over the top and it grows through his asshole.
I don't know about that last element.
Well, because like where the tree is growing is right where his crotch is. It's a very phallic setup.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. Maybe you're right.
Like conceivably,
The,
right?
the,
Or it's
ro- the
like
roots are absolutely like all around him, so maybe that is where it is. And also, I don't have as green of a thumb as you do. But she does suck on the seed a lot. I'm wondering if that's part of what helps it last. But
yeah. So the only reason maybe that could be a reason. I thought she was always putting it in her mouth when she was cutting her hair as like something to bite down on because it hurts.
maybe you're right. Maybe
But
that's what it was.
I didn't know. I didn't really get like how that would hurt either because it's not like she's like scalping herself.
No,
Just giving herself a buzz cut.
yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know, but it was in terms of the plant thing, like I'm grasping at straws when I bring
Yeah.
that up because I don't know either. And then just on the note of Anya Taylor-Joy, like her as an action hero, I need more of it. Like I feel like we've gotten some of it, but like I would love to see her get more edgy characters like this.
Yeah, I think she was really good in this. And I think the issue that comes up with someone like herself or Charlize Theron or like a Natalie Portman, for instance, is that they're naturally like frail, petite women. So it's like there's a suspension of disbelief that has to go on, and they do a good job of it. I would say maybe with the exception of Natalie Portman, but did a good job of like, all right, putting that to the side. I can buy into this here.
With I feel like Charlize Theron doesn't fall into that as much, but Natalie Portman is obviously
She's
very
tall, but she's still very slender and like feminine, you know?
yeah. I'm just remembering her from Fury Road, and I felt like she like wasn't like not like Anya Taylor Joy, like
That's true. Yeah,
but
I would agree. A little different from that for sure.
but also with Anya Taylor Joy, because I'm like trying to think like of all the stuff that she's been in. I feel like the only I know she's in The Northman, but I don't remember that movie as well as much as we did review that a while back. I don't remember
She's
her.
really a witch, you know. She's not like
Okay.
doing any sort of killing, or I think she's more of like the supporting.
Yeah. So I still shame on me haven't seen the Queen's Gambit.
I
But
haven't
obviously
seen that either.
that's not a action. But the New Mutants, she was great as Magic.
That's true.
Ilya
That's true.
Rasputin, she was great in that. But I don't know from like I've seen The Menu. I haven't seen The Last Night in Soho, but I know that's not like action for
Hmm.
her. So I'm not sure if she's done that a whole lot more. In if Viking Quest, I've never seen that, but I don't know what the hell that is. Just looking at her resume, but I would love to see her get more of these opportunities. And for me, like when you're talking about like high fantasy type stuff, like I don't. It's easy to suspend a lot of disbelief for me. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What will age the worst from this?
let's see. What will age the worst? Oh, well, her not showing up in this movie for an hour.
For
I mean,
sure.
I just think that like that is something that when because again, it's very well done. You mentioned before how like the action, like particularly in the first 90 minutes, Anya Taylor Joy is not in the first 60. So
Hmm.
it's they make up for it, but at the same time, it's just like I part of me thinks if I'm just like, oh, I can't think of anything, like what's something fun that I can go watch? I will pop this on, but I'll watch the first fight scene and then I might go till like when she
Hop
pops on the
around
scene.
to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like maybe to the war rig.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean I can't watch this in full again, but just not having her character in there as much. Like I just don't think that's going to age well. Like for the first time, it's good. For after that, I'm not quite as sure. Um, with Dementis, like I liked him a lot. Maybe went on a little long with some of the
Mhm.
talking at the end. But like I think I'm nitpicking a little bit there. And then same thing kind of with the sped up movements. Like there I like it. I love that style. I think for me, there were just times where I was expecting it and then I didn't get it. And there were other times where I wasn't expecting it and then I did get it.
Yeah. Yeah,
And I was
yeah.
like, I don't, if that was deliberate, I question it a little bit. Like that's my only thing. Like I felt like there were times where it shouldn't have been done, or should have been done, and it wasn't. And then it made me doubt other moments. So maybe I'm supposed to be uncomfortable, but that threw me a little
Okay.
bit.
How about knowing the outcome where this is a follow-up prequel that leads directly into Fury Road? So you kind of know that Dementis is going to die at some point. You know that she's not going back to the Green Place. At least, like at a certain point in the movie, I'm like, she's never going back there because we know that she turns into Charlize Theron. And she's like living the Mad Max life. So like I didn't think we were going back there at a certain point, which I was a little disappointed by.
I did think
Um,
we were gonna go back. I thought there was a chance that's like maybe for like a second she would see it, but then be like, "Oh no, fuck, we got to get out of here." Like
mhm.
I can't.
I thought it was going to happen when she lost her car and she was just walking out like into the middle of nowhere, and then like
Mm.
that dude picks her up who's like on top of the mountaintop,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then we find her in like the
Ugh.
cannibal
Ugh.
underground place.
All the maggots. Ugh.
Oh, it's so gross. That's so
Yeah,
gross.
that was brutal.
Um, how about Furiosa's tribe or father not also going after Furiosa? Why was it just those two women?
Well, feel like I sure like I don't know who her dad was, but I thought that the other woman was like Mary Jabaz's partner, wife.
Well, yeah,
So
but I mean, they had,
right, no, no, but I understand
a
what you mean.
woman, and a woman can't make a baby.
No,
You
I
need.
understand. I understand that, but I didn't even know who. Like, we didn't even know who if she had a dad. Like, he might have been dead.
Maybe, but just more people in general too. Like, why was it just them two?
That is fair. I
Yeah,
thought it was going
because
to be
you
more.
think it would be so important. Again, not just because of it's like their child, but
Mm.
the town depends on it essentially.
Not just because of the kid. That is exactly right. Like at least the third person would go, so that way one stays back and then two can pursue.
Yeah, yeah, something like that, right?
I don't know.
Wait, no one recognizing Furiosa as a girl despite having like the most fair girly features that I like maybe ever. These huge wide eyes, porcelain skin, like very like soft, supple lips, like I don't know. Like I feel like that would have popped up a little more than like her taking a piss underneath the war rig by herself.
Hmm. That's an interesting point. Yeah.
It's like Jack only knows. And even Jack wasn't even aware until like her hair pops out.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, I thought she hit it well at that point, but maybe before, maybe she. I mean, I don't know. She hit it. She always tried to hide it, so I don't know.
But like we're seeing glimpses throughout however long that
Yep.
she's there. But the day to day of that sort of upkeep is a lot. You
Mhm.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like showering.
Right. Well, how much
Probably
people?
not much of that going on. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Anything else? What age the worst?
Nothing else for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you got
I think that's it there.
okay. Cool.
Best performance by a side character? It's
There's
got you.
only
Yeah, you got it.
there's only two people it comes down to. Praetorian Jack is I think the number two. Number one has to be Mary Javas, Furiosa's mother. I
Yeah.
mean, no one has a more she has she doesn't get a lot of plate appearances, but man, she is like she's Matt Stairs. That's what she is.
Yeah, she's really good there. I don't know if this is Erectus or Scrotus, but what was up with like whoever had like the thing for young Furiosa?
What do you think was up with?
Well, I know, but
Yeah.
it was kind of weird. Like it's just kind of like something that happens, and then he never remembers her again. Never kind of recognizes her, but not really. It's like I don't know.
I mean, think about, okay, here's my thing. He sees her once or twice, right? That's it. And then she completely buzzes her head off. Like, you don't know this person, and you see them one time with a full head of hair, and then boom, buzzed. Forget it. Like, you didn't see their ears before. So like that's where for her, for them, it's like it's one time. Like,
Maybe, yeah. They probably don't have the best of memories either.
that dude definitely not. I mean, he's the biggest dumbass and inbred of them all. So no, yeah, the brothers were messed up for sure.
Now, I will say a nice. I agree with Mary, Jabas, and Praetorian Jack in that pecking order 1, 2. But maybe an honorable mention for the Octoboss.
Oh
I know
yeah,
he comes up in our next question here, but I think he looked very badass.
yeah, he looked
The
awesome.
helmets were great.
Yep, he was. I mean, and he was the one that killed Mary's boss too, and that whole scene was just like dark, epic, everything. It felt like kind of Viking like even, and that's not just because I've been watching Vikings on Netflix right now.
No, I can see that for
But
sure.
it just, so all of it was just, and his look really played in well to that. So yeah, definitely like on the short list for best performances by a side character.
Who lost the movie, Nick?
All that said about the Octoboss, he did lose the movie because he's the one that gets torn up by whatever that fucking tail is for the war rig, and then on top of that, he has his issues with Dementis. That's how his group ends up separating. And I think the thing that was probably the straw that broke the camel's back, or at least started the dispute that those two had, was when they go and take over Gastown, because he uses his guys, and then he pulls the plug on or he calls an audible and is like, we need to make it look real. Shoot Octobos's guys. I mean, it can't get much worse. And then, of course, he dies.
Yeah, that's true. Although, to Dementis's credit, it did work.
100%.
On that note, I think the original leader of Gastown, and Morden Joe's brother, was a big loser in this, because he dies with that crazy contraption that goes right through his eye.
Yep.
Also, maybe partial loser, Dementis and his nipples.
That's right. I forgot about that.
His nipples because in that same scene, because he has like some sort of Xerxes type thing going on where he had like the nose ring with that chain down to the nipples. So when it all pulled out, he was bleeding from the nose a little bit. You could see on the beard there.
Forgot about that.
And his nipples were gone.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that part. The nipples being gone.
And he like barely. I mean, I know he reacted, but like that would be really painful if you lost both your nipples.
One would think that would be quite painful. Yes, he took it like a champ. That's for sure.
Also, the guy who caught Furiosa, bad. Original guy who caught,
that whole biker group wore it, but yes, the original guy, 100%.
Yeah, and then we don't know what the situation is, but Furiosa's father.
Yeah, definitely. If
tough
he's
luck
around.
Just being like, nah, I gotta handle the wind farm today. I can't go out there. I gotta set up some solar panels or something.
Or he's already dead. Or regardless, he lost his wife and his daughter.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
Yeah, or maybe they're all together now. Who knows?
That's true.
That's what we need. We need a sequel to find out where the father is, and then them all meeting up in heaven somewhere.
I'm telling you that prequel, if you go and do that on the Green Place, you're gonna figure it out.
Now the problem is you probably won't be able to get George Miller. I think George Miller's like 80.
Oh wow.
So I'm not sure how much bandwidth he has in place. And this, like, Anya Taylor-Joy said that this was like the loneliest and like the worst place she was in mentally on a movie set in like forever. I think there were some issues with this. I may be confusing some directors and different movies right now, but I'm pretty sure that like he smoked a ton of pot on set and was like constantly doing drugs and stuff. And
that explains some things.
Yeah. Well, I think you gotta, kind of have an altered state of mind to create this whole world that he did. But yeah, so I don't know how much bandwidth he actually has.
No, that's a
left for
fair
that.
point. And I did, the missus did cite that to me about like how Anya Taylor-Joy didn't seem to have a great like filming experience with this, but
Yeah.
it came out great. Like as long as it's
Yeah.
nothing like really bad. Like uncomfortable is one thing, but like
Hey, tough times make tough people who make tough movies.
now you sound like Dementis.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Look at that. It's
Well,
full
I may have picked up a thing or two from you. Not a good person, but had some good ideas.
I'm doing you a favor.
Yeah. Who won the movie?
Chris Hemsworth, big win
Yes.
for him. I mean, this is again like I haven't seen that other the Fast Times at El Royale. I think is what you
Bad
said.
times. Bad times.
Bad
Oh,
Times.
right. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen him in a villain role previously, but I thought this was great. And yeah, so this is a huge win for him. I think Mad Max fans, again, I've only seen Fury Road, but we talk
Right.
about how like people love Fury Road. Like there's by and large like a well-received movie. If you like that, you will like this. Like it's got all those things and then some cool characters added to the mix. And then as much as Anya Taylor-Joy, we were just talking about like the filming experience may have not been ideal for her, and she only was on screen for half of the movie, just over.
Right.
There was still she did a great job when she was on screen, and like because it took so long to get to her, there was this built-in desire, and part of me still feels like like we're saying, like her as an action hero, I need more of it. I didn't get enough of it, so give me some more, please.
No, I'm with you. I could see that for sure. I agree 100% on Hemsworth. Think he's the real winner. I'll give a shout out, honorable mention to the costume designer,
Mm,
and like makeup and stuff. So like all this. I mean, we mentioned like that woman losing her lip, and then that comes back later, and she's like doesn't have her whole upper lip. We mentioned the guy with no nose. There's a guy with no eye. Like everything like that. It's just everything looked so cool, and to be in that world. You buy it,
mhm,
So
definitely,
shout out the costume designer there,
1000%. Yeah,
especially because for the prosthetic on the nose for
yeah.
for Hemsworth. I was here for it.
I really hope that on the note of like the other people involved in this movie, I really hope that Miller like had someone else that he was working with closely on this, like kind of
Oh,
outside
like
of
an
his wife.
understudy or something.
Yeah, to help like just like show them the vision and like how we get here and everything. Because I'd love to, I really am. Again, I know there's 3 other movies. Now that I know that they're on Max, I'm definitely gonna go and watch those 3.
hmm Mad Max on Max,
Yeah,
Max on Max on Max.
it's almost like I should have fucking been able to guess that without knowing. Um, but yeah, I would love to see more. I feel like, but I don't know. We'll see. I
Well,
got those
with the
other 3
way
to
that
watch.
the movie industry is, they'll never give up on a successful IP. So there will probably be something else down the road. Whether it's as good as what we've gotten in these last 2 installments, it remains to be seen, right?
This is very true, and part of the reason why I don't like I know there are so many times where it's like, no, we don't need. I've definitely said this. We don't need more. Like this was good as it is. Whatever. This is already the 5th movie. They did a good. This one and the last one were really well done. I was actually talking to my dad about it. His favorite one. He hasn't seen Furiosa yet, but his favorite one is Road Warrior. He says by far the best.
Oh, okay.
So there's that. So like even if like let's just say those are the only 3 out of 5. Like you're doing a pretty damn good job. And this isn't. I think like it's been in comics and some. I think Fury Road might have had a comic, but like it's pretty
I've seen
much
that.
just a movie thing. So I
hmm
feel a little more comfortable saying I want more versus like with comics and comic book movies or like novels and stuff like that. It's like, well, let's just we don't need to push the envelope sometimes. Like we can in terms of quantity.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. All right.
That's a
So
mid burp there. Sorry.
yeah, no, that's good. We're a pro burping podcast here.
This is
Nick
true.
gave it an 88. I gave Furiosa an 87. That's good on the CMM aggregate score for an 87 and a half. So go see it in theaters. It's definitely a theater movie, a theater experience. I saw it not in IMAX, but like the boosted,
Ooh.
bigger screen, better audio experience, and like the revving of the engines, you're kind of shaking, the walls are kind of shaking. So like everything works really well in the theater there. Or if you have a good home setup, do your own thing.
This would be a good IMAX experience, but that's cool that you got to see it in that enhanced setting.
Yeah. So it was definitely, it was like $20 for the ticket, but I'll do it. Every now and again, do it for the people, do it for me.
Sometimes you just gotta.
Yeah, exactly. Like we always got to do the Discharge Depot. Not a good segue. Not my best.
Choo choo, bitches.
All right, so it's been a while since we've convened live on air.
Mhm.
Post Memorial Day weekend. What have you been
That's
up to?
right. That's right. Oh, wow, I didn't realize it's been that long. I've
Yeah.
been watching a ton of shit. So I mentioned Vikings on Netflix because I watched that before the show ended because there's 6 seasons of it. I watched it before the show ended. I think it was on Netflix, but then it got pulled off of Netflix, so I wasn't able to finish it because that was at the time where I just didn't have fucking everything. Then now that it has recently come back, I don't know how recent, but as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, I needed to give that thing a go again from the beginning. I fucking love that show. It's so damn good. And it was really cool is to I watched The Last Kingdom, and that is kind of more focused. Like there are Vikings. Sorry, it's another England versus Vikings show,
Okay.
but it's more heavily focused on the England side, and it's just interesting now, kind of be on the flip, and also like the timing of it. This is a little bit before the Last Kingdom. Like we just met the King of Wessex in Vikings, and he is the grandfather
Mm.
of the main king featured in the Last Kingdom. So it's just kind of like I love putting all the pieces together and figuring out who's related to who and all
Kind
that
of
kind
like
of stuff.
House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones type thing.
Yes, except this is like all somewhat based on real shit. Like the main
Oh,
character in this
okay.
is Ragnar Lothbrok. Very much like I think Lodbrok was the real like the real person, but like,
Hmm.
his sons and some of that like so yeah, it's there's some real characters in here, real individuals in here. So there's that.
Love that.
Been watching Dark Matter, which is an ongoing show on Apple TV Plus, based on a book that I think the show creator was the author of. So kind of taking his full vision there. But Lauren and I have been enjoying that. She really liked the book a lot. And then also random, we watched Escaping the Madhouse, the Nellie Bly story on Hulu, which I think has
Hmm.
been around since pre-COVID. I think it's starring Christina Ricci. Have you ever heard of that name, Nellie Bly, before?
No.
See, I hadn't either. She's like the first real like celebrity investigative journalist, and this is like her first story. And
Huh.
I'm like, how the fuck have like I needed to ask you that off the rip because it's like I've never heard of her, and I don't know if I don't
Now,
think I
do
ever
you
learned
mean
about
that
her.
she is like a famous investigative reporter when you say celebrity, or does she investigate celebrities for salacious stories?
A famous investigative reporter who has
Gotcha.
her own celebrity, and she got it from this story where she was like in a madhouse, like back in the day. I don't remember, like
Hmm.
I don't. I think it was like the uh early 1900s or maybe it was like late 1800s. Either way, this is her first story, and she went on and did a whole hell of a lot more. But it's like I've never heard of her. How come I never heard of her in my any of my journalism classes? Like
Yeah, you would think so, right? That's a good. Maybe I did, just wasn't paying attention. But I mean, I have no
that
knowledge
is
of that.
that is very much possible for both of us. There's no question about it.
Yeah, can't
But
rule it out.
but at the same time, it's like I don't know. I feel like
Yeah,
that's
that's.
this is a badass. Like as a journalist, like you will appreciate what this individual went through on that alone.
I'll have to check that out then. That's good. I like Hulu. The wife right now is watching. I think this was on Hulu. It was like some TikTok cult, like dancing,
Oh yeah,
dancing through the fire
Netflix,
or dancing through hell or something
Net,
like that.
Netflix.
Yeah. Oh, on Netflix. Okay. Yeah. So she was watching it, and I kind of got into it or whatever. But I found out like the main person that they're talking about, who's like this in this cult, this woman, her sister married to Austin Eckler of the
Yeah,
Los Angeles Chargers.
blown away by that. Blown away because Lauren watched it too, and it's called Dancing for the Devil, the
That's it. Yeah.
7M TikTok cult. That is the name
Mhm.
of it on Netflix. But yeah, Lauren, I kind of watched it a little bit with like Lauren was watching it, and I was like reading, and then I'd pop in and whatever. But I saw
Yeah,
Austin
yeah,
Eckler,
yeah.
and I was like, before they said it, or before I saw his name or whatever, I was like, I saw the field, and I was like, wait a minute, is that Austin Eckler? Lo and behold,
A fantasy football superstar, Austin Eckler.
Fucking
Um,
wild. But
yeah,
yeah,
crazy stuff. But I watched over the last week or so Tires on Netflix. I mentioned it the last time we potted.
how
The
was it?
Shane Gillis, it's like kind of like sketch comedy, but it's a sitcom. I really enjoyed it. I know,
Hmm.
I think it was Mac in our group chat who said he wasn't, he was just kind of meh on it.
Hmm.
I loved it. If you're a fan of Shane Gillis and his comedy and like his whole like world that he's created from his podcast, like he just brings in all of his friends. He's kind of like Adam Sandler in that sense, where
Mm,
all of his other like B-tiered comedians all come onto it. So he's got like Tommy Pope joins up with Andrew Schultz. And they play, the Wops, all these Italian guys who come in. They're great. Like all the bit characters. The main character, Steve Gerbins, has been on the podcast a bunch of times. He's hilarious, but he can be very uncomfortable for people because he's so awkward.
hmm.
So kind of rub people the wrong way. But if you listen to the podcast for as long as like I have, like the last like 3 years or so, like with any other podcast, you feel like you know them. So you come in and you're like, oh, that's that guy. Oh, that's great. That's a funny role that he's playing. And like you kind of understand the dynamics like a little bit more. But
Huh.
I wasn't a fan of the podcast, then I'd kind of be like, all right, this is kind of like a low rate, like acted show.
Interesting.
I can get people not liking it. I really enjoyed it. Thought Shane was maybe, kind of like a Seinfeld situation. Like he's not the funniest guy on the show to me,
Interesting.
but he does do like a poor man's Danny McBride.
Oh, okay.
Kind of what he reminds me of there.
Interesting.
He's
Okay.
kind of a bro who's always kind of a jerk.
Hmm.
Kind of has some redeeming qualities to him.
Gotcha. I was curious about how you were going to feel about this because it seemed like this had potential. But
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, it's coming back for season 2, so
Oh, there you go.
yeah. So that was, I think, announced even before it was released. So, but yeah, I think it's good. 6 episodes, 20 minutes a rip. You watch on the
Oh,
treadmill, getting your steps in, so it's pretty easy to consume. But I enjoyed it. I would say it's like an 85,
85. Okay. Nice.
84, something like that. Like it's a B.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Cool. I've thought about checking it out. I have no knowledge of any of his shit. So like his stuff I've seen, I feel like some of it, but not definitely not the podcast. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think he's funny. I guess he's not for everyone, or maybe he is. He's like super popular now. But yeah.
Yeah, he is.
I
No,
think it's
I
good.
more meant on the insider bits.
Right.
of
No.
what he's
I
talking
get what
about.
you're saying there. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so we both certainly kept busy since we last convened.
Yeah. Memorial Day weekend, getting some sun. I got like sunburns on my shoulders are starting to peel and everything now. So we did all that good stuff. Went to the beach.
Oh,
Good
nice.
stuff.
Yeah, I was driving all over friggin' New England.
That's right. Yeah. That's there you go. There, Connecticut and Massachusetts.
Yes, sir. Yep, and New Hampshire at the end of it.
God bless it. Yeah, you got to go back, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Very good stuff. A little bit of a programming note for next week, right? So,
Yep.
We are going to be giving you, not that it really matters to you anyway. You're going to be getting the same slop on time anyway. Same bat time, same bat place. But we're going to be pre-recording our episode at some point in time,
Mhm.
and then getting that out to you guys on Monday and Tuesday, depending on how you're listening to this. And it's going to be the best of what we've seen so far.
Yeah, because we always kind of float that idea around whenever we're talking about movies. Like, what is the best movie that we've seen so far this year? I don't know if we want to do that with shows. You and I can reconvene about that.
Yeah,
but
I think whatever we've reviewed,
Mm.
maybe on the podcast. So I think, True Detective Night Country, for example, could be on there.
Yeah, well, the other thing is too, there are things we haven't talked about, like Invincible season 2.
That's true. Oh,
So
yeah.
we can iron it out a little bit more. Maybe we just keep it to show specific. I think there's a case to be made for that. But we're going to be doing a best of, midway through the year kind of conversation, because we always kind of mention like, oh, it's the best show of the year so far, best movie of the year so far. And for right now too, this is such a pivotal point, I think, for entertainment, because we're going to be getting Deadpool in the second half of the year, and then for this month we have 4 major shows coming out. I'm blanking on
The Boys, The House of the Dragon. Rings of
Acolyte.
Power. Oh, the Acolyte.
And what was that? The Bear's the other one, I think.
The Bear. Okay, I
Which-
haven't gotten into the Bear like that.
I haven't watched The Bear either, but either way, like it's a very
It's a
well
big show. Yeah,
regarded
yeah.
movie and everything. Show, yes. Dork talks about it a ton. So there's that could end up being like the best stuff of the year. So we want to get to this point so far.
Mhm.
At least.
Yeah, and then we can readjust. Maybe we can even do some score readjustments. Maybe it's just how crazy we want to get into this.
Ooh,
But
yes.
either way, you're gonna have a podcast for you, no matter how you slice it. Same bat time, same bat place. Play the grunt. There we go.